Hi, I'm Anthony Martinez,
And I'm Faith Adams.
and today we're here to talk about Pokemon anatomy, covering 5 Pokemon that are part of the 5 major vertebrate clades and comparing them to the animals that inspired them. And of course, what unites them more than their very special epidermis? To begin with, we have fish, and what better representative than the giant catfish Pokemon Dondozo and the equally giant Wells catfish? Both of these animals have massive bodies, gills that allow them to breathe underwater, broad mouths, long whiskers to sense vibrations in the water, and of course, what unites them most, large bodies that lack scales and are covered in mucus. These mucus covered bodies help to block out pathogens and parasites that could be detrimental to the health of these animals. It doesn't offer a lot in the way of protection, and especially not in water retention. But the skin, like all things, continues to evolve. The amphibians are next, and our representatives are Krogunk, the poison and fighting Pokemon, and the poison dart frog. Perhaps the most notable thing about them is their bright skin color. This is aposematic coloring and is used to warn other animals to stay away because these guys are dangerous. Of course, they've made strides to be able to live on land, now sporting a fancy pair of lungs, but unfortunately lacking a diaphragm. These two rely on cutaneous respiration, which means they need moist skin to let oxygen come inside of their bodies and circulate throughout. Now we come to fact or fiction, where we challenge you to determine which of these is right and which of these is wrong. We begin with A. Poison dart frogs produce their own poison. B. Poison dart frogs live in small groups or pairs. And C. Poison dart frogs are the size of a quarter. Guess which one is correct and which one is wrong. If you were to guess A, you would be right. Poison dart frogs don't produce their own poison. Instead, they gain them through something called kleptotoxins, where they eat other poisonous animals and use the poison for themselves. Up next is the reptile. Reptiles are very special as they're covered in thick scales that allow them to retain water, and they're more capable of actual breathing, no longer relying on cutaneous respiration. Now, what makes Snivy and the vine snake so special? Why, it's their coloration and their body shape. Snivy has a very pointed nose, and the vine snake has a very thin and pointed body, and their coloration is something that should stand out. They're both green and yellow in color. This is because they both aim to mimic plants. But why would they want to mimic plants? The answer is very simple. Snivy and the vine snake want the ability to be able to sneak up on prey and hide from their predators. And what better way to do it than mimicking a simple plant?
Next, we will be looking at the mammal buffolot and its counterpart, the American bison. The American bison has a shoulder hump and a short neck. The hump is composed of strong muscles that aid the bison in running. It also helps hold the bison's huge head when they are not eating. During the winter, bison produce a thick winter coat that provides them insulation. Their skin actually thickens in response to the cold temperature, and fatty deposits appear to insulate the animal. They can actually use their large heads and massive necks as snowplows to forage in snow as deep as 4 feet. A fun fact about these animals is that they can survive the same snowstorm that would kill most domestic livestock. As for their fur, for their head and their face, these areas have much thicker fur than the rest of their bodies because it helps keeps flies and other biting insects away because the fur and skin is too thick for these creatures to reach. As far as their horns, their horns are made of bone and keratin. Fact or fiction? So out of these three answer choices, you're going to pick which one you think is false. So there's A, bison have poor eyesight and excellent hearing. B, cows and calves communicate using moos. And C, bison can run up to 35 miles per hour. So which one do you think is false? If you chose B, you would be correct. Cows and calves actually communicate using pig-like grunts. And for our last animal, we're going to be looking at birds. We're going to be looking at mandibuzz and the white-backed vultures. So these vultures have large areas of bare skin on their bodies, such as their head and neck. The reason for these bald areas is because of their lifestyle. The white-backed vultures have a scavenging lifestyle, so they have adapted these bald spots to prevent soiling of the feathers when feeding on carcasses. They have white feathers and ruffs that are made of keratin. Vultures also, their feathers are used for thermoregulation, so they can cool themselves down by changing the positions of their heads. They lower them to stay warm and raise them to stay cool.
And that's going to be all for us. We hope you enjoyed our little presentation comparing Pokemon to their real-life counterparts, and we hope you learned a thing or two from all of this. In mucus. This mucus serves a very useful purpose in the lifestyle of both Don Dozo and the Wells catfish. It's essential for them to be able to had my ringer off. Answer is actually A. Poison dart frogs don't produce their own poison. Instead, they obtain them through something called kleptotoxins, where going so good too. Amphibians, looking at Krogunk, the poison-fighting Pokemon, and the poison dart frog. Both of these frogs have a very special type of coloration called aposymptomatic. Hi, I'm Anthony Martinez.
And I'm Faith Adams.
And today we'll be talking about Pokemon anatomy. Talking about Pokemon that fall under the 5 major vertebrate.
Do you want me to say that part?
I think I could.
Around their neck area that are specifically made of keratin. Their feathers actually help with thermoregulation. So when it is cold, it will provide them with good insulin, and when it's hot, it will give them, I don't know what it'll give them.